Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1189. Boy, Oda is doubling down on Luffy getting his ass kicked. First giving us a throwback to Crocodile and then amping it up. So you saying to Luffy, hey, you get two more for the price of one. It's a bad day for Nika Joy Boy in the form of Luffy in Gear 5th, but help is on the way. But before we get into that, we've got a pretty awesome cover request with a cover page. It's with Nami on, along with 3 chimpanzees, 3 monkeys, referencing the monster trio. You've got Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Obviously, they're acting their own way. It's cute with Nami getting pissed off. Speaking of Luffy, let's start off with the start of this chapter with Luffy bleeding out the mouth because he's been shish kebabbed with the Bofu, the Blade of the Void, the newest weapon of Emu, but not the only weapon we get introduced to in this chapter. So it's just a bad day at the office for Luffy. He gets smashed into the tree. That looked nasty, I will say that. You know this is bad when even Usopp is freaking out and Nami's asking Usopp what's wrong. I love how everybody's chilling looking on. Meanwhile, you got Brook in the background trying to wake up Gunko, who's been freed from the ice. The ice is melted. You got Rataskia, who's trying to actually attack because it thinks Gunko's still a threat, which technically she is, but she's out of commission right now. Then out of freaking nowhere, well, I shouldn't say out of nowhere, in comes the new Giant Warrior Pirates to help out the Straw Hats here. You got Gerd patch up Loki, which is cool, which looks like we're going to get the Haradine Loki team up, which is going to buy Luffy some extra time here. Speaking of the World Cup vibes, this whole section of the chapter actually turns into who could possibly be on the throne, who sits above the Gorosei, top of the world government, because Loki says, yeah, I think I know. So that's obviously due to Red Eye Shanks, which I was kind of disappointed because I felt like this would have been the opportunity for Oda to highlight what Shanks did to Loki, but to me, I don't know anybody else, it doesn't seem like he did anything. Because it richly reveals Loki's going out, he's going to challenge the world government. Shanks warns him that's a bad idea. But before we get into that, we got Emu piercing Luffy with a second blade out of nowhere. And this is actually interesting because Emu for the first time actually calls Luffy by Monkey D. Luffy. But brothers, each carrying a different family name. One of them was killed by the Marines, obviously referring to Ace. And then he refers to Saba because he mentions, oh, the other appeared among the Revolutionary Army to spread his fame. Interesting, he doesn't mention a thing about Dragon though. Not before we can go any further, Emo introduces his second Sea King sword, the Fragrag, and just pierces Luffy again into the tree. He's not going anywhere. Like, right now, this is where Loki goes into his, I guess, ordeal with Shanks. When they go back up and they talk about what Loki's going to do now, he's going to avenge Harold and his soldiers by going out and seeking out the world government. Shanks tells him that's a bad idea. I know what you're up against and it's more than you can handle. Because Shanks already knows Emu's sitting at the top because he's obviously a former Celestial Dragon. He's also a former Holy Knight, so he would know about this. And Shanks again asks, who's your enemy? From who will you take revenge? And Loki just screams the world government because he doesn't know anybody. And Shanks goes on, who is controlling it all and manipulating it? He is the king of the world, referring to Emu. And Shanks goes on to say, if his defeat was possible, someone would have defeated him before you. For the people that are saying that Shanks might stand a chance against Emu, no, I'm sorry. And considering the fact that Teach already wounded him before he even before he returned to Marijoa. And I like how we got a panel of Zebek. No wonder Zebek got PTSD and decided not to fight Emu solo without forming the Rocks Pirates. He would have got absolutely annihilated. I'm sorry. Hold on, considering what Zebek went through involving Emu and Saturn, and considering this wasn't even Emu in the flesh, like, Jesus Christ. I hate to think what would have happened to Zebek had they have actually fought. Jarl tells Loki not to act recklessly. So that's why we cut back to the present. I left the country out of respect and I couldn't reach him. He truly is the king of the world. But this is where we get the vibes of a team up between Haradine and Loki, because it says then he represents the perfect opportunity to eliminate him. And Haradine says, let me help you, but I won't object for the revenge of my father's murder. And this is where the Straw Hats also find out the world government has somebody above the Gorosei. While this is going on, you have Brook telling Rataskia, do not interrupt. And Chopper tells Brook, said he froze the woman because she's dangerous. Brook, I love this moment from Brook because I won't deny she's dangerous, but I'm sure someone was manipulating her. This girl is like my daughter. And immediately, that flipped the script for Rataskia, so he completely sympathized with Brook. Speaking out of nowhere, in comes Robin joining the gang. I thought she would appear near Luffy's location, but I'm glad that Oda's keep things unpredictable to that extent. But then in comes Robin, the MVP of Elbaf, and Robin says, I need you at the library, Chopper, because Soul's waiting. Obviously, we know where this is laid in. But boy, talk about perfect timing. But this is where the hype of the monster trio kicks in, because it's not just Luffy that's about to get an upgrade or Sanji about to get an upgrade, in my opinion. Just as Iwa's about to take his time and stab Luffy with an axe, this time it's called the Kitten no Oto, the Heavenly Punishment Axe. You knew immediately where this was going, by the way, as soon as he pulled out an axe. But we also go to where Zoro and Summers are fighting, and obviously Zoro's having a hard time. One, because of the upgrade that Saint Summers has, and two, Zoro's dealing with some injuries via Emu's attack. And we come to find out it's not just Emu that has the hyped up blades, the one of 19 blades actually. Summers, 800 years ago, 9 founding kings of the world. They planted their weapons around the empty throne, vowing equality amongst themselves. And then Saint Summers goes on to say, the sword of chaos, Toho, sword of nothingness, Fuho. The sword of chaos, you got the sword of nothingness, you got the sword of heavenly, and you got the Longia spear, the sword of malice, devil's stigma, and the Marama's sword. These are the names of the 19 weapons that ruled the world 800 years ago. And this is where Zoro's struggling, by the way. He revived it by bringing it back to life with the devil's aura and granted it to us. I'm guessing that means the Omen, because that's exactly what Saint Summers is using now as an upgrade. Little do we know, I think Zoro's about to get an upgrade too. Does Zoro need it? No, based off the fact time is running out. And Zoro's going to need an upgrade before the final battle anyway. I know not a lot of people are going to like that, Sanji fans, but I can definitely see that as well. What you see before you is the power that subdue the world. Saint Summers introduced his own sword. He's the sword of wrath and love. And then we find out that Saint Gillingham has the spear, which makes sense. So he has the sacred spear, Longius. Iba's about to attack Luffy with the axe, but you know he's about to come in and save the day. Literally, Scopper comes in, blocks the attack like a boss, and that's how the chapter ends. When Oda decided to hype up Scopper by using Gear 5th Luffy, now here we are having Scopper protecting Luffy in Gear 5th from Emu. The final villain, possibly, of the series, we don't know, but it's definitely a candidate now. I can see Scopper put up some resistance due to his experience, but other than that, I don't see him putting up much of a fight against Emu. Luffy to buy some time to recoup. I don't know how well that's going to work, considering Luffy, the first sword that Luffy got stabbed with, actually absorbs life energy, and he's pinned to a tree, so Scopper needs to work fast. Either that, or this is where Loki and Hardy, a team-up's going to kick in. That's not a shocker to me. Scopper's going to buy time. That's going to give Luffy even more time. I don't know if we're going to get the Luffy-Loki team-up. It just depends on how much resistance they put up against Emu, but that's where we're going with this. As far as like the whole Robin situation, that was the best part of the chapter to me, because that's progression. And I know Robin says she called for Chopper, but I personally feel like the rest of the straws are going to go, just because Brook and Usopp are in no condition. Nami, she's going to take shelter as well, so it just works in that regard. Gunko's out of commission too, so that'd be perfect for Brook to take Gunko out from hiding. And we get the reveal of what Robin and Sol have found underneath the tree. Because let's be real, even if Luffy does recoup, what's he going to do to Emu in this situation? And it could be Robin the one that snatches Luffy from that tree. It would make sense if they're close to it, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm more excited to find out what Robin and Sol have found now that Robin's in the picture. I already had a feeling what this was leading to, but Oda's really dragging this upgrade for Sanji and Luffy. I'm sorry, like, Sanji's going to get Conqueror's Hockey Unlocked. That's going to be its own chapter. It looks to me like Zoro is getting an upgrade too. I don't know about anybody else, but the fact that you had Saint Summers, the one that introduces a sword, one of the great swords of the 19 families from 800 years ago, and the fact that he's taunting Zoro, I don't know if it's going to be now, but I just get the feeling this could be what leads Zoro to turning his blades into black blades. It was too soon since he got the Emma, but now that some time has passed, he didn't really get much of an upgrade when fighting Rob. Lucci could get an upgrade now, especially if Zoro's going to go up against Nash Juro in the future and possibly Shiryu of the Blackbeard Pirates. Then he's going to need an upgrade too. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy about that, Sanji fans, but either way, we got a great chapter. We got Scopper on the scene, saving the day for Luffy, literally. Although you might want to try and pull that first blade out if it's sucking out the life energy of Luffy. Robin's back on the scene, so this chapter was complete hype for me. So let me know what you guys think down below. That's going to do it for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, you guys know what to do with that thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys' support when it comes to these reviews. Take it easy, guys. Bye.